clearly? I mean, no need for anybody of you to unmute yourself. You can just type in the chat window if you are able to hear me and see my screen clearly. And I'll be starting now. Okay. So let's start the session today. So industrial IoT, it's a buzzword. It has been around for quite some time, but I'll say that now it is really picking up. And working in the IoT industry for last 6 years, we are seeing that the traction in industrial IoT is now picking up, and people are seriously getting interested in industrial IoT. So let's try and understand industrial IoT, what it is about. There's a lot of confusion among people about industrial IoT and automation, sensors. What does it all mean? So let's try and get a clarity on what is industrial IoT over the next 30-40 minutes. And whatever questions you have, you put in the chat window. Throughout the session, whenever you get a question, you just put in the chat window. I'll go through all the questions and try and answer all of them, towards the end of the session. I'll speak only for like 30-35 minutes, probably maybe 40 minutes, or maybe even less than that. And then try and answer questions for at least 10-15 minutes. Okay, so moving on, industrial IoT. So about InstaIV, so we are a IoT startup, and we are one of the largest IoT education institutions, as well as we have done lots of uh, solutions in the IoT industry. We have many clients, and we have been ranked over a period of time among one of the top startups in the IoT space. So not spending too much time here, we have an IoT platform called Osmosis, which is quite popular, and there are several clients which are using it, like Indian Railways, U2 Electronics, Pidilite. Several clients are using Osmosis platform. This is my profile. So I started this company around 7 years back now, 2013, and we registered in 2014. And earlier I used to call it Excelta Systems, and then I changed it to because of some reasons you have to change the name. So I've taken out the education business from Excelta and some solution business and called it InstaIV. And since September last year, we are now called InstaIV. So I've been working in the industry, IT industry, for almost like 25 years, and have worked in Tech Mahindra, before that Satyam Computers, before that TCS. I've also worked in US for close to 6 years, most of it as independent contractor. So these are some of the corporate and educational as well as solution clients of InstaIV. Like these are some of the clients which have been our clients, and some are current clients. And we are also present in many places where we already, although we only have one office in Hyderabad, but there are some franchise partners in Bangalore, in Delhi, Mumbai, as well as outside India in US and Dubai. And we have trained, as I said earlier, 15,000 plus people. And like we have trained almost more than 50 corporate clients we have trained in IoT over the last few years. And we have deployed at least 50 solutions in IoT space over the last 5-6 years. So now let's do one thing. Let's quickly understand first what is industrial IoT from a technical point of view, or what is IoT from a technical point of view. And then we'll go and understand industrial IoT, because it's very much related to, like, industrial IoT is extension of IoT only, right, as the name suggests. So basically, industrial IoT, you see this industry here, right in the center of the screen. And let's say in an industry, there are thousands of machines, right? There are pumps, motors, lathe machines, CNC machines, and all that. So all of them have some sensors in that, right? So these CNC machines, for example, have hundreds of sensors. They will automatically work, and they will cut pieces. All that is based on sensors. So let's assume that all of these machines which are within the factory magically get a unique identity. Okay, so we give all of them a unique identity, which is a typically IPv6 address, which is a new form of IP address, basically, which is very long, so it can potentially have infinite combinations. So you have these machines within a factory, and they have this, sensors. So you can see here these machines having these sensors, okay, and a mechanism to communicate to the outside world. Okay, so these machines are called, just let me shift the screen a little bit, I guess. Okay. Okay, so these machines are basically having these sensors, which are not only having an ability to sense the data that they are supposed to sense, which has been happening for a long time. Now with IoT, they have an ability to communicate to the outside world. So they can communicate using some of these low-range protocols like Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, LoRa, and also several other kinds of protocols are there. And these typically communicate to either a mobile device, a mobile phone, or a gateway. We call this kind of thing that you see here at the bottom a gateway. So what is this? So mobile device, let's say, has an app. So this app is able to talk to using one of these protocols, typically Bluetooth and Bluetooth Low Energy, because every mobile phone has that by default today, and able to talk to a machine on this side in a factory, and able to communicate to a cloud-based system on the other side. An app can be built for that. So this mobile phone becomes a gateway, or you have a physical gateway, which is a hardware device which is put on the factory premises, and this hardware device talks to the machines on one side, taking data, whatever data they are offering to this, and onto the cloud platform on the other side. And what is a cloud platform? A cloud platform is nothing but a software which is able to take data from these hundreds of thousands of devices. So this is just one factory I'm showing here. But imagine there are thousands of factories which have become connected factories, which have hundreds of thousands of machines. And all those machines are able to, let's say, communicate to the outside world using this mechanism which I just explained. Okay, and this cloud platform can talk to all of them simultaneously. So it is a very powerful piece of software. It typically resides in a cloud somewhere and has an ability to communicate using some of these protocols. This is not an all-inclusive lift, but this gateway and this mobile phone, either using Wi-Fi, 2G, 3G, 4G, or some of these new kind of things you must have heard about: NB-IoT, LoRaWAN, Sigfox, 5G kind of communication channel, to uh, this platform which is based on a cloud. Okay, so this platform is able to communicate to many of these or all of them simultaneously, and not only take the data from these devices, but is also able to communicate back to them. Okay, let's say a motor is running here in this factory which is becoming overheated. So data reaches here, temperature data reaches here via gateway or via mobile device, saying that temperature has increased above 100 degrees Celsius, which is dangerous. Then this cloud-based platform will be able to take a decision and send the information. You can see these reverse arrows, and to send a reverse instruction to that machine to shut down, or maybe to make it slow down, or maybe send a message to the mechanic there saying this machine is heating up, please shut down the machine, or please take some action, right? So these kind of things happen in this cloud. And then this big data analytics is the key piece, which is the brain of this cloud platform, where all this analysis is done and all this data is stored, and then you can run algorithms on it to take decisions. And this each of these machines which communicates to the outside world or take instructions from the outside world within a factory is called a node in IoT language. And this node is a constrained device in terms of, you can't put IoT device inside it which is too much big in size or consumes too much power, or is very expensive. You want to build that IoT connectivity and IoT device, or convert it into a device using very, very low cost things, so that the cost of the equipment does not increase. So let's say you buy a lathe machine in a factory or a motor in a factory which is 100,000 rupees, but when it is IoT enabled, it should not be that this machine becomes 150,000. Nobody will buy it. So you have to maintain the cost as low as possible, and then you have to don't consume too much extra power. Let's say it consumes 100 watts of power, and then because making it IoT enabled, it starts consuming 150 watts, which will increase the cost for the factory. So you keep the cost low, as well as you make it versatile and able to communicate using some of these channels to the cloud-based platform. So this in a nutshell is what IoT is. Okay, and industrial IoT is all about extending it further. So what are the prospects of industrial IoT? Industrial IoT, is one of the fastest growing segments of business application in the world today. And industrial IoT, they are saying, will be worth $10 trillion in global economy by 2030. Earlier, those estimates were for 2025, but now because of the slowness, because of security and other reasons, IIoT has been a little bit slow in picking up, but now it is picking up really fast. And so $10 trillion worth of business in triple IoT, and already it's worth $2 trillion worldwide. And there is a exponential uptick which is being predicted worldwide, and so more than 200,000 jobs in industrial IoT in India in the next few years, basically in the next 2 3 years. And this jobs in industrial IoT will be there for the next 15 20 years. So whoever gets into industrial IoT and IoT as such will be able to make use of this, for or have a career in this for next several years, basically. So that's the whole advantage of industrial IoT and getting into this now, basically. So what is industrial IoT in terms of actual thing on the ground? It could be about data visibility, like storing, monitoring, presenting, predicting. So what is data? Data would be like any machines which are there: motor, pumps, furnaces, boilers, presses. You often hear a pump busted in a factory and a lot of people died, furnaces explode. So data should be captured somewhere and should be processed, and actions should be taken. So IoT is about that. So um, basically machine parameter data. Then you can have any sort of tracking data, asset tracking data, tracking your vehicles, to inventories, to tools, to machines, workforce, production data, actually how many things you are producing, at what rate, whether it's meeting your requirements, it is over or less, what is the efficiency, quality control data, basically what is the efficiency of each and every process which is happening, whether it is within parameters which are required, Six Sigma and all that comes into picture. Then what is the energy consumption? Energy has become a huge factor. It has become a huge cost, as well as too much environment related things, with respect to energy, environment, these are all related. So getting to know what is the consumption at any point in time, whether when my production is low, why is my factory consuming so much power, which is almost equivalent to power when it was producing almost twice as much. So those things are very important today to figure out and control, and also leads to a lot of environmental factors, basically. Then you have real-time monitoring and dashboard. So you have real-time monitoring of all these data items, and you can take real-time action and real-time. So this is where IoT is right now, taking real-time action in factories and floors, taking preventive actions, preserving things, repairing, making sure people are aware of what's happening, and if anything going bad or out of the ordinary, people are informed about it. Then you have data integration with backend systems. So you have almost all in big industries have SAP systems, Oracle Financials, and all those things. So where if some factory is producing, let's say, some X items, then somebody manually enters a lot of stuff in SAP system saying this order fulfillment is happening, this much production, this much downtime, this much quality parameters. All those data is entered and captured typically manually today in industry. Now all that can be automated, and as soon as one batch finishes, data can automatically go into SAP. So there is no human intervention, basically. So which means, yeah, so I'll request everybody to keep yourself mute. So this essentially means that there's no human intervention. So no chances of fudging data, no chances of missing things, basically. Right. So huge work happening in data integration with backend systems. And then ultimately we need to get into predictive, where you are able to predict things, machine failures, maintenance requirements, and all that. So we'll discuss all of them going forward in detail as to what each one is about, and then we will try and understand what we are talking about here. So what is machine data? It's a real-time machine data, right? You can imagine motor, for example. Let's take a case of motor. What is the RPM of the motor? What is the temperature of the motor? What is the power consumption of the motor? Sound of the motor, very critical. People can tell by the sound whether it's working or not, in the right condition or not, right? So same thing needs to happen in IoT, right? So what is the power consumption, as I already mentioned, right? So all these factors can be captured real time and fed into a system with cloud-based system, which I showed you earlier, which helps in the cloud-based system to take decisions and to try and understand how the motor performance is. If there is too much power consumption while the load on the motor is less, why is that so? Is there is too much friction? Is there too much heat being produced? So that kind of decisions can be taken, and also giving visibility to the management of all these parameters which are actually calculated from the factory floor real time is very critical for our industry today. So all these things are very much possible using IoT. So these are some diagrams of dashboards which are there. So just want to tell you all, guys, anytime you have any questions, any point you want more explained more, or anything, please put in the chat window. I'll go through all the questions at the end of the session and try and answer all of them. Okay, and whatever I can, basically, right? So please use the chat window extensively. Please keep putting your questions there. So this is our typical, this is a visualization of how, data can be transmitted from a factory floor to a cloud-based platform. And you can see a dashboard here, which is displaying the data. It can also be displayed on a mobile phone. So Italia Ceramics is one example that I wanted to share here, which is a real-time example. We did a project there. So this is a ceramic tile manufacturing company, a decent mid-sized company, I'll say, with around 2,000 employees in Ahmedabad in India. And we went there, and they're the management, once you explained to them about IoT, and they got really excited. So their factory was 100 miles away from their head office in Ahmedabad. So they wanted some real-time data, because what happens is they get orders all the time from their salespeople spread all over the country. Okay, so their salespeople keep feeding sales requirements data into the system, and they need to communicate that data needs to get into the actual production, to the production people, so that they can accordingly manufacture tiles, what color, what size, what shape, what material, and all that, right? So at the end of the day, they have to see, okay, what orders have been fulfilled, what orders are remaining to be fulfilled. So they wanted to know exactly which lot corresponding to which order is in what stage of production right now. Okay, and today what happened used to happen, that they used to get the data manually fed in by the supervisors, which used to be often not 100% correct. Okay, so that's where, our system came into a picture, where we started, noting down which lot corresponding to which order from the market, and how many tiles of that order are being manufactured. We IoT enabled their counters, started feeding the data live to the management, and we put a huge dashboard there in their head office, which used to display, okay, order number, and accordingly which parameters, where is that order, all the orders which are supposed to be delivered with today or tomorrow, and they can browse through that and all that. So it really created a very good impression in the management, and really helped them to take decisions much faster and speed up some orders or delay some orders depending on their requirements, real time, with real data, without human intervention coming from the factory floor. So human intervention or no human intervention is a very key part of IoT, so that the validity of data is accurate and maintained. Similarly, asset tracking data, you can have connected fleets, you can figure out where the fleet is going, what is the utilization of your vehicles, and suppose there's a truck going somewhere, then a driver needs to get changed at one station, whether the next driver came in on time, whether driver change happened on time, by giving drivers wearable devices and all that. You can track all that real time with real data coming into your system, rather than depending on the driver to input, which will always be manipulated, right? So all those things are happening. You can figure out where your machine, so for example, I'll give you a couple of examples on this rather than going through it. You can geofence things, of course, and you can use multiple of technologies, BLE, RFID technologies, and a lot of other technologies, cell phone based technologies, to figure out where things are. So one example I'd like to give you is U2 Electronics, which is one of the projects we did, still live. And U2, you can go to their U2 Electronics website and figure it out. So they are using our platform, and they are building connected locks, basically, which are very powerful locks, which can tell you about where the lock is, whether it's being manipulated or somebody trying to open it. It will inform the owners of that. It will, if somebody wants to tamper with it, or where it was opened, where it was closed, where it is right now in the map of India, and all that. So that connected lock completely works with our Osmosis platform, and is completely tracked and maintained. And if any, so this one is used by these retailers for transporting high value items. And today, even tomatoes and stuff is high value item, because huge trucks today carrying 100 tons, 150 tons of material. The cost of tomatoes itself becomes huge, 50 lakh worth of material. And also you have gold being transported, currency being transported within a city for ATMs and all that. All those people are using this kind of locks, which are being tracked, as an asset tracking mechanism. The Dubai Country Concrete is another example, where they have this lot of construction equipment. This company has a lot of construction equipment, and they lease it out to companies. So when this material is leaving the premises, when it is coming back, where it is right now, is it being used? They will charge also based on usage. Okay, so some of the material we will, once we put our sensors there, we'll be able to tell back, that okay, we are being used right now, and not depend on the person who is taking that material to tell how much it is being used real time. So we were able to kind of give that information real time to the management. Okay, equipment, so much equipment lying in my warehouse right now, so much equipment on ground being used by people, we are making money out of it. What is the usage level? So we, for up to such a certain usage, we will charge something. Beyond that usage, we charge something more. So getting that accurate information from the field itself, very helpful to the company. So that's what industrial IoT is about, getting real time, real data to people. Workforce management, figuring out where your workforce is, where it's moving, what are the different parameters you want to capture, efficiency of workforce. All those things are possible using people workforce management using IoT basically. So energy consumption, as I said earlier, one of the key things about a factory today, because energy sometimes is 10, 20, 30% of the cost of production basically. Okay, so monitoring the energy consumption, figuring out when is the more energy being consumed, why is it that my production energy is still more when consumption is still more when my factory is producing less. Very important point to figure out. It also has a lot of environmental implications, because if you consume less energy, you can essentially cause less pollution in the environment, right? Because most energy is being produced through polluted means. So doing all that is very, very important, and optimally using your resources in a factory to be, so when some machines are not being used, switching them off automatically, or when the shift gets over and there is no further shift, making sure all machines are shut down properly, nothing is running, air conditioning is not running. All those things have become very critical for industry, and in the long run can really make a difference between efficiently run factory and non-efficiently run industry. Okay, and can really make a difference. Today's competitive world, very important for people to understand that and appreciate that. So one example I'll give you is Pidilite air compressors. So have this company, we did a project for them. They have these 3 air compressors which are very high end, very, very big air compressors. Each one of them consumes like megawatt of power, 1 megawatt of power. They are huge, and they supply essentially air to the entire factories, which are spread over hundreds of acres, square kilometers basically. So they have 3 compressors, but at any given point of time, only 2 should be running, and 1 should be kept switch off. But what these workers used to do, they used to run all 3, because just in case one goes down, who will want to figure it out and then start the next one? Because if one goes down, there's a chance that production might get disrupted because of that, or things, the quality might go down in some of the products which requires that air. So they were running all 3 and causing a huge extra bill for the companies. And some people were at least doing it in the factory. So we built that small IoT devices for them, which used to figure out that if more than 2 compressors used to run at any point of time, then our alert used to go to the supervisor as well as to the manager, senior management, that okay, 3 are running. So the reason has to be provided immediately by the supervisor or that mechanic there, so that it is not run without reason. And a lot of power savings. I mean, the power savings that they achieved using these devices repaid the cost of these devices within 10-15 days, and remaining things are all profit for the companies. So these things typically add directly to the bottom line of a company. Quality control data, figuring out defective production, like in the Italia Ceramics. So there was a system which we tried to implement. We couldn't do it at that time, but there was a requirement where if defective tiles are coming, they want to know in a given lot how many defective tiles are there. Real time, figuring it out, how many tiles have cracks, how many tiles have paint quality not up to the mark and all that, which are rejected basically, as quality is very important in ceramic manufacturing. So you can have IoT devices doing all that real time. Okay, and real time monitoring those quality control parameters. So mobile based dashboards, any senior management traveling anywhere in the world can have mobile based dashboards real time, anytime, and can see it. Very beautiful reports, actually giving real time data. All that is possible, and we are doing it for companies, and we also have a lab which I'll explain a little bit later, where we are doing it for companies. Data integration with backend systems, as I said earlier, there are a lot of backend systems running in the company, SAPs and Oracle products and all that, right? So workforce management, to feeding data real time from a factory floor. When is a truck leaving the factory premises, rather than waiting for the driver to call somebody and saying, please enter, I'm leaving the system. Okay, so those things add to efficiency as well as totally remove human error. When a production lot is going for production, when is the last tile being manufactured? Automatic data going in and order close coming in for senior management. You know, a lot of intelligent edge devices which are able to process some of the information locally and give information to your backend systems, so that okay, this production is over, material supplied was good, start the payment procedure for the vendors. It keeps your vendors happy and make sure that you get the best quality from your vendors basically. So all these systems are being built today, and a lot of software and hardware development required for all these things, where a lot of people are required basically. So very good career opportunities lie in integrating IoT systems, backend systems, you know, CRM systems and all that. A lot of requirements here. So I'll just skip this. Now coming to predictive maintenance, huge applications in predictive maintenance. You can see this is the key brain of IoT systems, you can say, where you want to manage things. You want to increase customer satisfaction. You want to improve fuel efficiency. You want to decrease losses. You want to optimize labor. All these are basically things which are required by each and every company, right? Nobody will say, no, I don't want to, don't want to decrease a planned and unplanned maintenance, basically. Everybody wants to have the factory running all the time, right? So IoT predictive maintenance helps you do that. Basically, how it does that, I'll explain to you, right? So you monitor data, right? And this data goes into big data systems, right? So I'll give you an example of a company which we did a consulting project with them, where they have a very huge, so it was essentially a refinery kind of company, okay, which has hundreds of motors and pumps and compressors and rotary equipment basically. So problem they were having is, if any pump, let's say, fails, so that pump is pumping some chemical into some other process, right? So if that pump fails, then that chemical is not going into the other process. So what happens? That entire lot of material gets wasted, because if that chemical does not reach that molecular formula, gets disrupted, and that entire lot is wasted basically, or at least gets delayed and gets spoiled, or quality goes down and all that. So huge losses for the company. So if they know in advance that this motor is failing or about to fail, they can do schedule and plan maintenance basically, right? Similarly, if a pump is failing, or a rotary equipment is failing, or any lathe is failing, or any pipe is getting jammed, let's say. So there are lots and lots of pipes where chemicals are failing. So if you can figure out, if something is getting stuck in the pipes and the flow is reduced, basically, so then you can quickly act on it rather than wait till the pipe gets blocked, basically. So all those things help a lot in industrial IoT and in managing this, so how does that happen? Data is going to a backend system where it gets stored. So then there are data scientists who understand these processes, who analyze the data. Okay, and then they figure out, okay, this time the machine failed. Why it failed? It failed because the sound of the motor increased, or the power consumption of the motor increased, or the the heat, this the temperature of the body of the motor increased. Some parameter happened and the motor failed. So if I know that that temperature is increasing, I can predict that the motor is going to fail after so much time. Of course, it will take lots of data, years of data and years of experience to be able to do that. That's what data analyst and data scientist is about, right? So being able to develop those algorithms which are able to predict these things, which some mechanic, if you go to a car mechanic, he's able to predict that, okay, your engine is making a different sound, it is going to fail after 6 months. So he knows, because of experience, that this engine, this lining is going down, it's bad, so it's going to fail because of sound and maybe vibration and all that. Similarly, in a motor, you can figure that out. Your machines can figure that out. A lot of research happening. ABB, GE, all those companies are working heavily in this area. Google also, by the way, to figure out how the maintenance can be reduced in my car, in my automobile, in my factory, in my motor, pump, aircraft engine, so that I can predict things and make sure that I know when the failure is going to happen. And entire industry is going to go towards that. Just imagine if I'm, let's say, able to sell motors and pumps, where I have developed an ability to be able to predict their failure. And I say that, okay, you take this motor from me, and this motor will never fail. 1 month before it fails, I'll be able to tell you that you need to maintain this motor within the next 15 days, plan it out, okay, so that your production line will not get spoiled or will not get stopped. Everybody will buy my motor, right? Any company in the world can become world beater. We are looking for the next idea about what we should do, because it seems that everything is gone. Everybody has already taken and built huge companies, but this is a huge area opening up, where people are able to understand this data and able to predict things. And each and every equipment in the world, automobile in the world, factory in the world will require these things in future. A lot of research happening already. So this is where the future lies, guys. And predictive analysis is the way forward. Predicting machine failures, vibrations, and all that, very critical for industry. Okay, now I've already spent 30 minutes. Another 5 minutes I'll speak, and then we'll move to question answers. Basically, manufacturing 97% fault can be detected if you have good predictive maintenance systems. Maintenance, 85% accuracy can be achieved, because these are some data which this is not my data, these are all from Gartners of the world. But then these are some of the things which are happening. You can reduce your maintenance by 49%. You don't need to keep so many things in inventory, because when machine is going to fail, you can maintain it accordingly. You don't need to keep. So cost goes down, inventory cost goes down, unplanned maintenance cost goes down, overall production increases, warranty, you don't need to buy so much warranty, because you can predict and maintain things very well. You don't need to have so much finance available, because suddenly a motor has failed and you want to pay somebody charging 5 lakh rupees to maintain it, because it's going to fail in time. You can accordingly repair it. So everything goes down, all your costs go down. This directly adds to your bottom line of a factory. So this is where all industry is heading. They want to reduce their cost. So they want to do all these things, right? Recall, scrap rework, reduce excess capacity, annual unplanned downtime, reduce it basically. So these are kind of dashboards which are coming up. Even in Osmosis platform, we have a dashboard which tries to predict some of the things. Let me say that, not actually predicts. So we at Axalta, we have built a dashboard. I'll just share this link with you. You can at leisure, watch this. So I'll just chat in the chat window. I'll put a link for you guys. You can, I don't know whether you got it. Okay, I'll share it in some time. But you can say that, just 1 second. I'll share it now. So we have a lab where we have built a system, which helps industry move in this direction basically. It is something which is being bought by a lot of industry, a lot of large companies, at least 5, 6 large industries have already bought our lab, and which helps, we have a lot of sensors, we have dummy motors and pumps and all that, which transmit data. So how the data is transmitted, how it is stored in database, how it is put in a dashboard, as you can see probably in this screen here. So all these things are possible, and people can learn about it using our lab basically. So we are planning to open this lab in multiple cities in India, so that you can take a session there and learn about it basically in industrial IoT. Okay, and consumer IoT, see, this is about industrial IoT. Consumer IoT, Sushil, we have a lot of examples. Maybe you can get in touch with me. I'll talk about these question answers later. But IoT lab is something which we have built, which uses a lot of different protocols, a lot of different modules of communications like LoRa, and a lot of sensors, and able to connect everything and show it in database and show it in a dashboard on a mobile phone also, and you can appreciate. And we are calling it MOOC Plus, massive online education system. So it's beyond that, where you have a lab as well as online training for it. So that's what we do in our industrial IoT lab, which a lot of companies are buying today to really get there. So this is our contact information, and we have a lot of training modules basically, which is about IoT. We are focused on IoT. So we are the only company other than ThingWorx to offer ThingWorx training at very, very cheap rates. We have IoT boot camps, IoT analytics boot camps. We have communication protocol trainings. For colleges, we have things. Solution architect course can help you become a solution architect basically in IoT. I took a webinar also of it recently. You can view that webinar later. Right, so you can see this YouTube video that I've shared the link with later on, at your convenience, to see what our lab can do for you, basically. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this training session, or this session. So let me just quickly go through the questions and see. So one question from Sajanath is, which microcontroller or microprocessor is best for IoT? So there is no one answer for this, Sajanath, because there are so many microcontrollers and microprocessors available today, from Arduino and Raspberry Pis of the world, which also have different versions. There are several industrial IoT microcontrollers and microprocessors available, which you can use at industry level to work with. And a lot of companies like TI, Texas Instruments, Fujitsu, you know, so many companies in the world, Intel, everybody is manufacturing these microcontrollers and processors, which you can use depending on the kind of need you have, the cost you can bear, the kind of power. See, that's why I call the node a very, very constrained device, because you suppose you can buy a $100 microcontroller or microprocessor, then you can have a very powerful microcontroller there, which can uh, do a lot of processing locally there and manage data and all that. But if you want to spend only 50 cents or no 20 rupees, 30 rupees, then you have to buy that very, very small microcontroller which has maybe 128 KB RAM, which you can then use to do some very limited things, connect to a gateway and send data. The processing happens on the backend system basically. So depending on the cost, the size, the power consumption, the kind of money you want to spend on it, the kind of robustness you need, whether it's being used in an industrial setup or a consumer setup or a medical device setup, you can accordingly choose the right microcontroller or microprocessor. So in our bootcamp training that we do, we discuss in detail about microcontroller, microprocessor, and you can get a lot of idea about it in our bootcamp training. And you can get in touch with us at any of these email addresses, okay, or also call us. You go to our website, you can have calling numbers also, and you can call us. Parikshit is asking how IoT can implement in data center industry, the view of improved fast and secure service. So data center is being used, extensively. IoT is being used, especially in prevention of moisture and shutdown failures, in terms of fire hazards, air quality, right? In terms of making sure that all the servers connections, basically physical connectivity of all the servers. They're typically in a big data center, thousands of servers. Power management. Power is typically around 20 to 30% of a cost of a data center, which consumes power in megawatts, if you know about it. So managing those power consumptions, and if how many servers are running, if suppose the requirement is less right now, shutting down things, restarting things, making them run on, making them go to sleep, and all that can be managed using IoT. Also, a lot of power backup devices are there in data center, managing those power consumptions of those and all that. Very critical for IoT, very critical for data center being implemented using IoT. Parish is asking, dear sir, how can we implement IoT to improve the service of data centers? I already answered that. What are the current leading IoT platforms available in the world today? Good question, Subhash. So there are lots of them. Literally, as per my latest reading, there were more than 500 platforms. But ThingWorx, which we also offer the training for, by the way, is the world's leading platform. So today, a ThingWorx developer, can charge a premium in the industry and can charge a very high salary, basically, because it's a premium product being used extensively, and there's a huge demand for it in the world. So that is one of the best in the world. Then there are so many other, Predix from GE, IoT Azure from Microsoft. Then you have AWS IoT from Amazon, right? And then you have, literally hundreds of platforms. So in the basic bootcamp that we do cover it in detail. And we discuss dozens of platforms there and tell you comparisons also of different platforms and this. So you can think about that if you want to get good knowledge on different IoT platforms. But my suggestion would be to you, you should learn at least one platform, because this is the future IT, a future of work, basically, is to get into one of those platforms and learn about it. Hariprasad asking, what kind of career opportunity I can expect from IoT despite of testing experience? So there's a lot of opportunity for you. Testing is one of the huge, a problem areas in IoT, because there are so many links to a chain. Let me show you the diagram that I showed earlier, in the beginning of this training or this session. If you see here, this diagram, right? So you can see here that, there are so many links in the chain. Here there's a link, here there's a link, here there's a link. There's hardware involved, protocols involved, again hardware involved, again protocols involved, software involved, then databases involved. There's so many links in the chain, so many failure points. So having an ability to test the system end to end, there's a huge requirement for that, to be able to understand IoT and change. So if you want to do that, or get into that or increase your horizon, Hariprasad, you should do the boot camp and stuff from maybe us or maybe somebody else, which gives you overall understanding of IoT. Because once you understand it, then only you can develop training about it, right? Or testing about it, basically. So huge implications and huge opportunity in testing opening up worldwide. And people who have IoT experience and hacking and breaking into somebody's IoT system has also started happening extensively. And security is one of the key fear that people have about IoT. So testing the systems from that perspective also is very important. Sushil, so I'll discuss the consumer IoT later. In our bootcamp, we cover it in detail, but you can go through some of the trainings and webinars, or you can go to our website, and there we have links to our webinars where I specifically talk about consumer IoT and all that. But this Amazon Alexa, your Fitbits of the world, your connected refrigerator from Samsung. Okay, all these are IoT devices basically. So Subhash, is your training specific to one industrial platform or is generic to all? It's generic, Subhash. We are not specific at all. Very, very generic. We might cover one or two platforms in more detail because we have access to them, but it's completely generic. So Mangesh is asking how to give. So only 4-5 minutes remaining. How to give solution to customers which do not have communication-based devices like motors, compressor. So that's what you talk about in industrial IoT. Huge market for retrofitting. So you retrofit these sensors on those industrial components. So in our lab, we do that basically. So we buy a motor and we put our sensors like vibration sensor, temperature sensor, power consumption sensor, RPM, all those sensors we retrospectively put on those things. Because 95 or 99% of the factories in the world will not have IoT enabled devices, right, as of now. So that's what you need to do. Right. Is Arduino better for real-time applications in IoT? Arduino is a very cheap, not cheap in terms of quality. I'm talking cheap in terms of cost. It's a very good, device or chip or what, and I should not say chip, a board, which can act as a gateway or can act as a node also, part of node. We have used it extensively with very good results. So it can be used. Arduino can be used. And we talk about it extensively in our bootcamp and in solution architect and all those trainings. Subash is asking if an organization already has analytics and other capabilities. Do you do only the IoT part and then integrate? Yes, we do that, Subash. Extensively, we do that. And we are, if you have hardware part, let's say, then we will do software side. Maybe somebody else will do the analytics side, right? Similarly, if you do the analytics side, we can do the other parts of it. Yes.
Good evening.
Sorry.
I am in.
I will suggest you to please type your question, whoever is that, because a lot of disturbance happens. Sorry about that, but please type your question. And if you don't want to type, you can call me later. My number is there on the website, instaev.com. You can call me. Parishit is asking, Dilip is asking how to find opportunities in IoT testing website for. So there is no website as such. There is no specific website which can offer you IoT testing. But if you have a profile for testing, and if you do have some IoT testing experience, please put it in that. We can help you. Get in touch with us, and we can try and pass your resume around because we have a lot of connects in the industry. Okay. Okay. So I think we have reached the end of time. It's 8:15. So guys, very many thanks. I hope you yes, definitely, Sachin. You are asking that are you considering partnering with any institute? We are looking for partners basically right now in multiple cities so that we can set up our labs there along with them, and then they can offer the trainings and of course on some way of revenue share and all that. So we are very much open and we want to do that. So if you are looking for it, you can get in touch with us. Even somebody who doesn't have any training facility but wants to do it can get in touch with us, and we are willing to do that. So SCADA domain people, Ajmul, very much IoT is the next frontier for you. You have to get in there. Embedded system knowledge is not required. Software is 60% of IoT. Analytics side, cloud side, protocol side is all software. So you can focus on that. You are not required to do IoT is huge areas. So you can just be software side and do it. Same is true with our trainings, where you do our training, you don't need to have knowledge on specific area. You don't have any prerequisite. Of course, you need to have some technical background, or you should be an engineer and all that, but other than that, nothing is required. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sumit. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And, pleasure having you all here tonight. We do this series of webinars. We'll doing the next webinar in another 10 days, approximately. So please do join us. Thanks a bunch.